this will always have relevancy for folks because it is so flexible, it is so profitable, but it really connects with the guest. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Danny.
And this is the Memory Makers Podcast,
the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories.
Got the Memory Makers podcast. A little Imagine Dragons for you.
Oh, that's what it is. Now that you say it, it makes perfect sense. But in the moment, I was going, what? Yeah.
Memory Makers. Should you do the little pop up with the
there
thunder?
It is.
Thunder. There you go. So I have used that song to kind of curb Rinker's fear of thunderstorms and stuff as those have come through, because I sing it really silly to him and then it's not as, intimidating or whatever. And so now he's just running around going lightning and the thunder.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we're that kid's just gonna be like Jess from New Girl, where he walks around just singing out loud and narrating his life. He's gonna be an odd duck if I keep up with this.
Yeah, just taking after his father. That's all.
Yeah, he'll get some awkward points.
I mean that in a good way.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It's he'll be an acquired taste just like I am. So, what's going on, my man? How are you?
I am good. We are we're prepping for Bull Expo coming up, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I look forward to trade shows where we get to, it's for me, trade shows are like a family reunion where you get to see old friends and clients, and the sense of community that exists in our industry is always exciting. So I look forward to that. And one of the things that is very common amongst bowling centers now, and if we look at the last, let's call it 10 years, is adding attractions and diversifying and doing all these things to become more than a bowling center, to become a full-on bowling entertainment center with lots of attractions. And one of the pieces that is very commonly added is laser tag.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about laser tag and why that is the case.
I love it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, when bowling operators are looking at what the, top profitability aspect is, bowling is almost always at the top of the list. It's like arcade, bowling, and laser tag as far as revenue per square foot, overall profitability, all of that good stuff. And, we've had the good fortune of doing a ton of that, but we wanted to use this episode to break down, why is it inherently, such a profitable attraction? What goes into the experience to make it have an inherent draw from an operational side, and operating costs? What does that actually look like and translate to? So that way, as folks are trying to do the math and seeing what's a good fit for them, whether it's folks like Bird Bowl that we're working with down in Florida in the kind of greater Miami area. Some folks are trying to attract new audiences. Some folks are just trying to have more earning power underneath the roof. I mean, there's a lot of boxes that this checks. And so, shocker, we're going to talk about immersive, story-driven, and social aspects of what making something exciting for the guests, right? It needs to be memorable. It needs to be repeatable. It needs to be something that, gives them a moment of surprise and delight. And laser tag is just chock full of that by nature. And when you look at things, like story-driven aspects, so much of the pop culture, whether it's movies or video games, it's this huge visual spectacle brought to life at a scale that you're just not getting on the couch. And so there are also so few attractions that are designed with large group facilitation in mind. So the social aspect is just wonderful because it is the birthday party king, right? You can put in 2 birthday parties at the same time with an average sized arena. It gives you really good opportunities for some of that competitive trash talking without the pain of something like paintball or, projectile kind of games. And the thing that I think that a lot of folks, you can have 2 of those things and have an attraction do well. If you have all 3, so if you start to add in the immersive factor to it, when you look at what laser tag and why it stayed relevant for 40 years now at this point, because, it got its start back in the 70s with the Star Wars craze, and then it was started to use as a, kind of training, mechanism for law enforcement and military, and then it got super gamified. there's so much that the equipment manufacturers are doing with things like varying game formats or different player groupings or playing against the arena itself that makes the game different every time that you play it. And so for folks that really love the spice of life and variety that comes with it, there's so many inherent tools and features in today's products that make that such a cool experience. And so, there's even folks, when you look at Laser Force putting in things where, hey, they're tracking and giving stats on who's moving around the most in the arena. So that way, hey, I was moving and grooving, or Frank, I can't believe it, you were just huddled in one spot and we're camping. Like, we're giving a lot more data and information to the players as part of their gameplay in today's games, making it more redemption enabled, all of that fun stuff. So that way it's inherently fun in and of itself, and it ties in well with the rest of the experience throughout the a center and the different things that they'll have. And we'll talk through, that's the fun nature aspect, the spice of life, the variety of it. But ultimately, when it comes down to it and you look at the basic framework of how the attraction itself operates versus others, I'm going to have you speak to the throughput and the capacity aspect, and then we'll talk about some of the operational costs and efficiencies too.
Yeah, throughput and capacity are so important when we think about characteristics of good attractions, especially anchor attractions like laser tag will often be at centers, is going to be one of the pieces that brings people into the center. If we use bowling as an example, if someone's a bowling entertainment center that has, let's say, bowling and laser tag and arcade and food and beverage and maybe some spin zone bumper cars or a couple other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bowling will be the number one thing because that's the anchor, but the laser tag will also be one of those pieces that's bringing people in, or other centers will have laser tag be the main thing, regardless of what it is. That throughput and capacity is crucial. And one of the things about laser tag is that it's designed with large groups in mind. And you've got different operational models that you can look at because it's one of those attractions that lends itself to, when you design and build and open a laser tag, you want to do it at a size and a capacity for your peak times, for your Friday nights, your Saturdays, and your Sundays, when you have the most amount of birthday parties, you have the most amount of group events, you have the most people in the center, because you want to capitalize on that and be able to turn a lot of people in a game and a lot of games in an hour. And at the same time, it's one of those pieces that's still very easy to operate on the slower Wednesday evenings when you don't have as many people that are in the facility. A lot of times what we'll see is that instead of having that dedicated staff member that's always at laser tag every single day, even though that's my personal recommendation, not everybody wants to spend that labor on a Wednesday evening when you don't have a lot of people. They'll have a floater that maybe they're helping to watch redemption, they're helping to watch laser tag and doing a couple different things so that it can kind of maximize their effectiveness on that day. Now, when we think about the throughput and capacity, you have the ability to adjust your game lengths depending on how many turns that you want to have in an hour. So one of the pieces that we see most often is that you're going to run probably 4 games an hour. Maybe 5, but a lot of places will do 4 games an hour, and that's a 15-minute session. And that session is made up of the briefing to explain how to play, the vesting, getting everybody into their equipment, the game itself, going into the arena, playing, coming back out, taking off the equipment, divesting, and then exiting back out into the rest of the facility, whether that is straight into the arcade or somewhere else. But you have the ability to make that game length a little bit shorter if you want to be able to have more turns an hour. That is helpful at very, very high capacity centers that have a ton of guests and they just want to turn and burn as much as they can. Other centers may run 4 games an hour, right? There are also things that are interesting. Not everybody does this, and I don't recommend everybody does this, but there are certain centers that are very, very high traffic. Someone like a Frankie's or Craig's Cruisers, where they actually run 2 separate vesting rooms with 2 separate sets of equipment to be able to maximize the amount of people that are in that arena. Because what will end up happening is you have one set of guests coming out of the arena into one vesting room and taking their gear off. At the same time, the other vesting room, the next group is already geared up. So the moment they leave the arena, the next group's already in. and it minimizes their downtime, because in their eyes, any time that there are not guests in the arena playing is money lost. And so it allows them to switch out extremely fast to be able to get a ton of guests through that experience.
Yeah.
Now, not every center is going to have the traffic to be able to support something like that. But if you are one of those really high traffic centers, that's a way that you can consider doing it. And then there are even operators that do things that are slightly different. You know, the center, Russ, that we worked at when we were in high school, Laser Flash, was they run 30-minute games, but within that, 30-minute sessions is a better term for it.
Yeah.
And within that, they do 3 8-minute games. So what happens is that you get everyone vested up one time. You go in, you play a game, you come back into the vesting room, and you kind of debrief real fast. And you go back in for another game, you come back out, debrief again, and go back in for a third game without ever taking your packs off, so that it minimizes how much time you have to switch players between packs. And it also allows players to improve over each game and get better and better and learn the game a little bit more as they go on. And so there's different operational models to maximize that throughput capacity with whatever makes sense for your particular facility.
Well, and it bundles so well too that by being able to adjust the length of game depending, like, hey, we may run 10 games an hour, still do a little bit of a lower price point because we know the length of the experience isn't there as much, but then they'll be more inclined to do 3 games versus 2 games because it's a lower price point, versus something that is like Laser Flash, where it was that is a standalone laser tag facility with arcade and a pizza kitchen that's in there as well. Well, their operational model now, they're doing a much longer experience. They're charging $35-$40 for that piece, and so they're just depending on the length of the experience, what you can charge for it, providing something that's different from folks that are down the road as well. So if you do have somebody in your market that's doing that, you may have several in your market that are doing the traditional 3 to 4 games per hour, and they're creating variety through the different types of gameplay or different interactive components or the game style that they're running. Or you can look at turning the operational model on its head, or you can even do a blend of, think of it like your Uber Flex rates and stuff, right? Where, hey, we're going to have peak time where it's a la carte, and it's just the individual kind of one-off sessions that you're doing. And then on the slow weekdays, we've got something where we can run a special and have it be unlimited play laser tag, because we know that it doesn't have a lot of inherent operating costs to run laser tag. And so I want to talk about that from the profitability side, right? Where you look at IAPA benchmark surveys, you look at white papers, all of this shows us that laser tag has and been for decades a top earner. And whether that's gross revenue, net revenue, revenue per square foot, all of the metrics, come up tops for laser tag. And the reason why is that after that initial build out and the equipment purchase for your arena, your overhead is literally, very, very low just for the needed staffing at the time for that and the electricity to power the components. And so when we talk with the different equipment manufacturers that are out there, as well as looking at our own clients and things like that, your typical overhead is about 20 cents per pack per game throughout the day. So if you have an average 24-player arena, their hourly overhead is going to be $23. Whether you've got no players in that game or whether you've got 120 players an hour coming through, in there, that's what makes this ROI so strong for laser tag, because you look at basic performance metrics across the country. Let's take kind of good performance at about 134 plays per pack per month. Better performance, you look at about 211 plays per pack per month, and best performance, really top-notch folks that are constantly busy, they're going to look at like 326 plays per pack per month. So even if you take like the average $8 to $12 bell curve that we see throughout the country right now, and do all of those different levels of good, better, best performance at $8 per play, you're going to look anywhere from $25,000 to $62,000 in revenue that is earned per month. And so when you then look at, okay, yeah, but that overhead of being 20 cents per pack per hour, you're going to be at least 3xing, if not 10xing, what your ongoing operating costs are. And that is so wonderful because all of that extra profitability is paying down quickly the initial investment that you had, as well as, giving you more flexibility. You may have other attractions or other areas that don't have as good of margins. And so it's a really good equalizer, right? And that's another thing is why operators love to have laser tag in there, is that the cost of doing business for that is so profitable and so efficient that it allows you to then put in other things that, may not have as good of metrics, but it equalizes and helps balance the teeter-totter throughout the ecosystem too. And so it's a great leverage attraction to make sure that you've got some really high profitability backstop, available for a large number of people to be able to consistently enjoy, and it's flexible to meet your needs. And that's one of the things, why laser tag sticks around. Well, it stays relevant, like we were talking about before, because guests see really fun pop culture, but operators continue to go and double down on it because it is able to compensate for other aspects of the business that are, a little bit tighter, a little bit leaner, a little bit more in depth. And so that's why we consistently see more and more centers continuing to add it on. And because you also can do something completely different from someone that's down the road, either operationally, theming, gameplay styles, all of that stuff. It can be novel and familiar all at the same time. And it just comes down to what kind of experience you're trying to create to then outperform the market.
And when we think about the experience, I think that there's also the idea of this being an active and exciting attraction, right? Today's digital age, it can be difficult at times to get people off the couch and into your center in the first place, and then get them moving and get them active. And when people play laser tag, they're physically engaged. They're also mentally engaged. They're moving around. They're strategizing, competing for victory. And while we, of course, have the rules of no running in laser tag, no jumping in laser tag, we all understand these safety rules. We all brief on these safety rules. Even with that, the quick movements and the excitement that happens, their heart rate gets up. People think about laser tag as being very popular for teenagers, which it absolutely is. I will tell you from experience of our operations and also going into centers and watching people play. And Russ, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, is that you have a dad who's joining his teenage kids, getting into laser tag. And you know who has the most amount of fun? Dad, because he gets to be a kid again, and he gets to beat his kids, and he tries to get the high score, and he tries to tag them and whatever that is. And when they walk out of the arena, the excitement that happens, the kids are having fun, but the parents are also having so much fun, and also at times almost surprised of how much fun they had, because they just kind of let loose and just were a kid again.
Yeah.
And there's that active energy and excitement also translates not just during the game itself, but when everyone's exiting that laser tag attraction to go back into the rest of the center, bringing that energy out, and the high fives and the bragging, and I got you, no, you got me, I got a higher score. And especially when it's family members or siblings or a parent and a child, all of that gets the rest of the guests that are in the center excited. Wait, what's going on? That looks like fun. Look how much fun they're having. So it's not just about the fact that people are physically engaged. It's taking that energy and momentum out into the rest of the center and acting as an advertisement for everyone else that's walking by going, that looks cool, let's go play.
Absolutely. I think that to that point as well, laser tag is such a, you don't have to be a kid to enjoy it. I mean, I was just at a facility in Dallas, and they were doing a big like Elks Lodge or Moose Lodge kind of annual fundraiser where they would break everybody up into small groups of 4 and 5, and you'd get, okay, who's got the best score on laser tag, who's got the best score on bowling, who's got the best score on, a couple of the key arcade pieces that they've got. And so they were building this whole competition that is expanded throughout the entire facility, right? And this was all adults. And so, they tie that into, prizes and bragging rights and things that you would get of, okay, here's the laser tag winner, here's the bowling winner, here's the arcade winner, here's the overall grand champion, like turning it almost like FEC decathlon style of play. And it just shows that there is so much of that translates across the board if it's done well, and you can mix and match that experience to really be complementary of what else you have throughout the center. And as folks are leaving, like as I was watching that going down, the level of excitement that was coming out of 50 plus year olds consistently out of laser tag was higher than everywhere else, right? Because you can occasionally someone will get a strike, or I should say I occasionally will get a strike, but when you have people, there's so many different success pieces or metrics that they can take out of their experience from laser tag to have those kind of bragging rights and stuff, that engagement and excitement level where they feel like they've done a good job, no matter how, where they rank, like there's always a silver lining metric that folks can use, which makes it such an exciting experience.
I've got nothing to add to that.
I dig it. Well, I think that when you talk about Eddie Hammond, right? We talk to him consistently about what laser tag is, and he talks about how it's such an important part of their mix because of those reasons as well. Like he goes, I can have a 5-year-old, I can have a 55-year-old, I can have a 75-year-old. They can come together, they can play, they can be silly, they can have a great time, and they're leaving with a smile. He's like, I don't have to worry about people coming out of that experience with, a less than enthused, type of experience, which is just, hey man, we're excited to be a part of that. And it's something of, it will always have relevancy for folks because it is so flexible, it is so profitable, but it really connects with the guests no matter what their age is too. So I think that's a great spot for us to wrap, my friend.
I agree.
I love it. Well, we've got more awesome content coming your guys' way through the weekly episodes, so come back again and hear more of what we're going to be laying down for you, and have some really fun guests that are coming as well.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
And always appreciate that 5 stars. Please and thank you.
If you've got ideas for future episodes, topics, or guests, follow us on social media. Send us a DM.
And as always, big shout out to Mikey Mike on the 1s and 2s, working the Ultranet for us. And we will thank you guys as well for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
What am I trying to say right now?
Yeah, me too. I think I am ready.
Cool. Mike, you ready?
Yep. All right, let's do it to it.